Hello there, right here, and I made the most useless farm in Minecraft. Let me explain. Having played this game for over 12 years, I have some pretty ambitious goals. One of them being designing a farm for every single item in the game of Minecraft. With over 1,100 items currently in the game, this has challenged me like no other. Being over 90% to completing this goal, I've ended up designing some really useful farms like a beacon farm as well as the most productive farm being the Hero of the Village raid farm. But I also ended up designing some very useless farms. But what exactly makes an item useless? For me, it's two main things. The item itself can't have many things it can be used for. So like wood would be considered useful because 1/3 of all items in the game come from it, where something like rotten flesh might be seen as useless. But even this seemingly useless stuff can still be used to breed and heal dogs, trade with villagers to get emeralds, and it can give hunger effect, which is nifty in some situations. But on top of that, rotten flesh comes from the mob, the zombie, which have a lot of useful properties that can make them the rarest mob in the game. My farm farms up something much more useless. The mob that is considered the pinnacle of boring mobs is none other than the polar bear, introduced in one of the most uneventful updates of 1.10 known as the Frostburn update. You hardly see them because they live in cold areas. And the most interesting thing that they do is try to attack foxes. Even bats are more useful, being the only ambient mob as well as having their cool looks throughout the caves. And when they die, they only drop raw cod or raw salmon. These are items that can be obtained by fishing from my guardian farm, from my fish mob farm, or my dolphin farm. Cod and salmon are by no means useless items. They can be used to have a dolphin take you to loot in underwater ruins or shipwrecks. You can use them with villagers to trade. You can tame cats with them and breed them. But despite me designing a polar bear farm, my farm does not actually produce any raw cod or salmon. It's not because these items actually just burn up during the process of farming them, but instead my farm is designed to use two new mechanics that came out. The first one is that polar bears can spawn inside of powder snow. So my farm consists of having grass in a snowy tundra with air above it and then powder snow above that. With this combination, we will only get polar bears to spawn in. Being passive mobs, I put in some torches to make it bright enough for them, as well as multiple layers to make it faster. After spawning, we want to get them out. The way I do this is just by having some water that washes down through there and actually pushes them off the edge. And this washing action is just hooked up to a clock over here, which washes them out every 20 seconds, which is the exact same time that the game tries to put in new ones, which is timed so that new mobs can spawn in between. But the real reason I designed this farm is to take advantage of the second new feature. That is, polar bears that die from fire will actually drop cooked versions of their loot, meaning that we get cooked cod as well as cooked salmon. And using some water sources, I got them pushed into this nifty killing chamber where they get burned by the lava up above, but their loot ends up dropping down below. And this all is collected with this water stream and placed into this chest over here. As I said before, this farm actually doesn't produce any raw cod or salmon, only cooked variations, which not only can be obtained by other better methods, AFK fishing, guardians, cod mob farm, and dolphin farm. But the cooked variations are less useful than the raw ones. You can't use them to breed or heal cats, can't use them for your dolphin treasure hunting or trading. The only thing you can do with them is actually just eat them. And as a food source, they're not that good. Once mid-game, you've already probably built my Hoglin farm, which produces plenty of food for the player. This farm doesn't even produce XP, as when these guys die by unplayer means, they just drop items and none of the orbs. The magma blocks throughout the farm are to remove babies, which would clog up the farm over time. Not only does this farm produce the most useless mob in the game, as well as some of the most useless items in the game, it is also one of the most annoying farms to actually get working. You have to build this farm inside of a snowy tundra biome, but with polar bears being on the passive mob cap, you have to also remove all the grass in the entire area around it. Otherwise, you'll get like polar bears or rabbits spawning on this grass blocks that are outside of the farm. And the game will cap passive mobs at only 10. After that, no more will be spawned in. This is why loading any grassy areas nearby will break the farm. But by understanding the game, you can make it a little bit easier. So rather than removing all that grass that's over there in that tundra, if I just move far away, the game will unload those chunks, meaning that any rabbits or polar bears that are over there won't count to the mob cap, freeing it up so that we can get them to spawn inside of our farm. And by standing this far away, we have it so that the farm is close enough to the player so that they can spawn in. And the chunk behind it is only redstone processing. It also keeps track of if there's any mobs there. And the chunk behind that one is mob processing, meaning it keeps track if there's any mobs over there. So if we pull up the chunk boundaries, we can see that we barely have this farm inside of these chunks that are closest to the player. And if we go to the one behind it, this is only redstone processing where we have our redstone activating. But we also need to make sure that no polar bears can spawn in these chunks, but outside of our farm. So I went ahead and placed in water all around here and also made sure the rest of it wasn't spawnable blocks with the chunk that's just behind designed it. We just have to make sure that there is no passive mobs in this line of chunks right here. But it's okay if there's actually still grass over here, because when we're standing over there, nothing will spawn over here. And the chunk beyond this, we also need to make sure that there is no passive mobs. We just kill any that we see. And anything beyond that, we don't have to worry about. Finding the perfect spot in a taiga can be difficult. We also have the option to farm polar bears in frozen oceans. These are the ones that have the icebergs. And you can easily mine down the nearby ones so polar bears can't spawn on those, and instead will spawn inside your farm, where we have ice for the layers instead of having powder snow and grass. And this will end up working the exact same way. But it's not that simple. Even if we stand over here after killing all the mobs over there, looking in the F3 screen, it still says that there is 12 creatures, which are the passive mobs, somewhere in loaded chunks. Now it could be turtles, but there's actually none around me currently. But instead, these 12 mobs are in our spawn chunks. So if we just head on over there to our center of our world, that means there is some passive mobs somewhere within a really big area around where the world spawn point is. How big an area, you ask? Well, all this green area plus the red and the gray. That means you have to remove all passive mobs inside of this 135,000 block area. But you don't have that lovely checkerboard pattern to tell you where the edges are. So you would have to go into the end dimension, kill the ender dragon, drop sand into the portal, hop in it yourself, search spawn for your pillar, count out 11 chunks from each direction, mark each corner with a block stack. After marking out all 4 corners of spawn chunks, you now just have to kill every single cat, chicken, cow, horse, fox, ocelot, parrot, pig, rabbit, sheep, turtle, goat, llama, wolf, polar bear, and of course, don't forget about bees, because these guys can end up hiding inside of their nest where they make it appear that there is no mobs in the chunk, but then all of a sudden they come popping out and fill up the mob cap. And after you killed every single passive mob in this area, some more of them probably just spawned in right behind you. To prevent this, you need to put in 10 of your own mobs in a controlled area. That way no more can spawn around you while you're killing the rest off. Then you would have to create a dead man switch, so as soon as the player went into the nether, it would automatically kill all the passive mobs that were left inside of your area. Then you would have to directly travel in the nether dimension straight to where your polar bear farm is at. That way you don't spawn in any new passive mobs. If done properly, there shouldn't be any more creatures loaded. Then all you have to do is wait here for a polar bear to spawn inside of your farm, and once that happens, you will see an F3, and then you can turn on the switch, which will turn on the clock. And if you're lucky, you will actually get a polar bear to spawn into this farm. As the farm is quite small and the rates in which passive mobs occur is very slow, you will not get very mobs, but this farm is expandable, so you can make it as big as you want. You could also make it faster by putting it down at the very bottom of the world, as mobs spawn in faster when they're placed down below without having any blocks above them. But that would end up even being more work. But in the end, you did all that work just to get some cooked fish. Like and subscribe, and check out this playlist to see how I designed a farm for every item in the game in Minecraft, or this playlist about cool tricks that I found while designing these. And you can check out the Farm Everything document progress with a link below, with videos and world downloads for each farm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!